Story 1. How difficult it becomes to get together with larger groups of friends. Story 2. Nobody really grows up the way you think you did. As a child, you thought adults were powerful, mature, in control of their lives, and knowledgeable. Then you realize adults are more or less the same children with the same nonsense in an older body. It was the hardest realization when I was in my 20s and started playing soccer with a group of men ranging from 21 to 60 years old. Week after week, there were married men with children in their 40s and 50s getting into fights over a pickup soccer game, screaming at each other over bad passes, acting the same way children do. They were literally fist fighting at times. As I got older, I realized I was immature in many ways but was aging physically year by year. Time flies quickly. Story 3. The pain. Drop a hammer on your foot. 6 weeks limping where before I would have worked a 12-hour shift and not worried. Fall over? Yes, you will pull every muscle you have trying to get up. Story 4. The phrase youth is wasted on the young feels accurate. I found it highly offensive when I was young. Story 5. How strange it is to feel 20 but have noticeable gray hair. I like my grays and I am grateful to age. It just feels weird to see the signs of aging, have the memories and life experiences of someone in their 40s, but still feel like a kid in many ways. Story 6. The pure bliss of no longer caring about everything. No, I am not coming to your baby shower. No, I am not accepting anyone's invitation to go out on Friday. No, I am not working late on Tuesday because the boss needs a new update. No, I do not care if you know I think you are attractive. Story 7. How uneven it is, at least physically. By that I mean I will be going along fine and then over a year or two, I feel like I have aged 10 years. It is not a steady progression. This last year has been a tough one for me, but I had felt more or less the same for the decade before that. Story 8. I can't believe it happened this fast. I am 39 years old, and I have coworkers who have never heard of Blink-182 or Chris Farley. My brain fails to process it every single time. I am not old yet. Damn it. Story 9. I am not, in fact, becoming more conservative as I age. I am moving in the opposite direction, full speed ahead. Story 10. I realize how often I give my mother credit for something that used to annoy me as a child. Story 11. Understanding that you need to find a way to get used to getting older. More feeble, maybe regretful, stuck in a rut for security. Why am I even here? Really, no matter your age now, you are only headed in one direction, and there is a stopping point. It all comes down to how you want to handle this situation. Find joy however you can. I think I can skip my next couple of therapy sessions now. Getting older is just as much psychological as it is physical. Story 12. When you finally have your mind in order and your body breaks down. Story 13. How true this really is. When young, you care what people think about you. When middle-aged, you stop caring what people think about you. When old, you realize no one was actually thinking about you. Story 14. The stiffness I feel after sitting for a while and then getting up. Story 15. Healing takes longer. Get a paper cut? 2 weeks of pain. Story 16. Most senses have faded, but my instinct for falsehoods and manipulation has become much stronger. Story 17. The loss of trust as you learn more about human nature has come from many years of opportunities to see people turn out not to be what they seemed. You can begin to feel a little cynical. Story 18. The disrespect you suddenly receive from young people is like one day being deemed old and, as such, boring, annoying, and unintelligent. It was sudden. Now it does not bother me, but that first year or two it stung. Story 19. How many different versions of myself I would transition through. Story 20. You know how when dogs get old, they start getting lumps all over them, and no one wants to pet them anymore? That happens to people too. Story 21. Started thinning in my mid-20s, definitely what you would call bald in my early 40s, probably the best thing that ever happened to me self-image-wise. Seriously. Before, I used to spend ages trying to get my curly hair not to look like curly hair, rain spelled disaster, etc. When I noticed the temples going, I felt depressed for a day, then got out the clippers and went #1 all over, have done ever since. I don't have to worry about something that isn't there, It is a lot cheaper to maintain, happily married now, but when I was younger I got a lot more female attention with a buzz cut, even with an encroaching bald spot, than with half a salon on my head. It forced me to get comfortable in my own skin fast, and I think that is a more obvious and appealing trait than having a nice haircut. There's some pride in accepting what you cannot change too. There are few sights more tragic than a comb over. Story 22. The pain. Things just hurt more, usually for no real reason. My feet, my back, my hips, my knees all randomly hurt sometimes. Story 23. You do get annoyed by other people's noises, especially neighbors, kids screaming, and loud music. Story 24. How fast time is going. I could have sworn it was March last week. But no, it is October already. Story 25. My tolerance for noise. In my 20s, I had a Volkswagen Golf 4 with a JL audio sound system, a 12-inch woofer and a 2,500-watt amplifier in the boot. 6x9 speakers all around. I had sound deadening material taped into all the rattling parts. Clean, crisp, and loud. It was my pride and joy, and I would often drive around at 2 a.m. with my drum and bass vibrating my windows. I loved it. I turned 40 this year and I have absolutely zero tolerance for loud anything. I listen to podcasts now. I like going surfing. At the back of the waves, I can only hear the sound of the ocean and wind. I can't hear the cars or loud people in restaurants. I have to constantly remind my kids to dial it down a notch, and I have a whole bag of earplugs for anything from moving the lawn to going to sleep. Knowing how much I used to love live bands and my car audio system, I'm actually sad I hate noise now. Story 26. I stopped in front of the mirror one morning and took a good hard look at myself. I did not recognize my reflection and wondered what happened to me. I gave myself a tap on the shoulder and wished myself good luck. Story 27. Two things. 1. Nobody has the faintest idea what they are doing, not entirely. 2. Everything starts to hurt the minute you turn 40, and that is not an exaggeration. Story 28. That anxiety is high because tragedy is imminent. The more you do and see, you realize it is just a matter of time before something turns your world upside down in some way. You really do need to enjoy the little moments while they are yours. Story 29. Older people are simply older. Everyone remains the child they once were, but with more years of experience behind them. Story 30. You do not care about what people think about you. It is liberating. Story 31. I have become quite cranky. I keep it inside because I do not want to hurt people, but man, the things I think. I hate most people, animals, bicycles, and trees. It is just not like me, except that it is. It is a new me and I hate it. Story 32. I think about this a lot because I have changed so much between 45 and 51. The physiological changes came on like a freight train. 1. Reduced reading vision. 2. Balance and coordination issues. 3. Reduced endurance and increased fatigue. 4. Sudden need for 2 prescription drugs for blood pressure and cholesterol. But that is just normal. Nonsense. Far more interesting are the positive mental and emotional changes. 1. I have become so thankful every day. I take nothing for granted. 2. I now hate loud noises and crowds, so I avoid them and stay at home. 3. I value my time so much that I simply will not do anything that is not at least very good. In my 20s and 30s, I would do literally anything with anyone and waste my time with weak activities. 4. I do not worry at all about what people think of me. If they think I am odd or dorky, I do not care. 5. I have moved on from old friends and family members who just do nothing for me. 6. I have gained so much wisdom from experience. Something that would worry or confuse me 10 years ago is now a simple calculated decision. I was talking to my neighbor about aging yesterday. His sons are about 26 and 24. They are dealing with job changes, apartment moves, and many challenges. I told him that where we are now, I am almost 52 and he is 55, is much better, and he agreed. We are settled, confident, established, and secure. Story 33. I do not have anywhere near the stamina that I used to have, even for activities that I enjoy. Story 34. Having a stable income can be the difference between life and death. Story 35. How much fun it is to become the person you were always meant to be. Story 36. How fast it happened. You know how when you are a kid, 16 seems forever away, then 21. Then suddenly you are pushing 60. Story 37. The speed of time. From 10 to 20 seemed to take a lifetime. From 20 to 60 has zipped by and seems to be getting quicker by the year. Story 38. Naturally outgrowing partying. Feeling bored by the frivolity of my 20s. And feeling ready for the next steps in life such as career, children, and buying a house. I used to cringe at the thought of settling down. Story 39. That drama never stops, no matter your age or stage in life. I always thought, when I was younger, that all the petty drama between friends would stop, but it seems to continue even as you get older. I genuinely have one friend now because I cut out the rest due to the drama they caused. Story 40. How much easier it is to keep up with things. I never feel behind the times. When I was a kid, my parents and older relatives were not always up on the latest news. My dad kind of was because he was into music and listened to the radio all day at work. My mom was and remains open-minded about things. She always said she never wanted to listen to the radio on the way home because she was around noise all day. She never dismissed something because it was new. She might not have always liked the song I played for her, but she never closed her ears to it or told me outright that it was terrible. Since she retired years ago, she has had more time to keep up with things and is now often the one to ask if I have seen, heard, or read about something. It can be anything from some bit of silly celebrity gossip to an article she read that morning. There is always something to talk about. The generation gap often felt wider. It is not so much to me now. We do not share exactly the same interests, but I am not lost either. I usually have a general idea of what, for instance, my niece and nephew are talking about. I do not feel left behind by technology either. It is nice not to feel stuck in that way. Story 41. The unpleasant adults I observed while growing up remained the same. The good ones never changed. They remained the same. They are just better at hiding their childishness and their vileness. Story 42. This is not a cry for help or anything, so please do not report me. The older I get, the more I realize how completely useless and disposable I am. I could die today, like right now, and it literally would not matter. My apartment would be cleared out by some hired help, and a new lease would be signed. Someone would take over my job and the hours I work. My phone number would be recycled and given to someone else. All my property would be scattered at a dump site, a donation center, or in the hands of other people to reuse. I do not plan on doing anything to myself, but I am just saying. Story 43. Seeing how terrible people can really be. I always try to see the best in people, but as I have gotten older, I have seen more and more people who are just genuinely evil. Story 44. Wait. Doing and eating the same as usual, but each day you look bigger. Story 45. The amount of time I have to spend stretching just to do the things I did when I was hungover. Story 46. I am 50 years old. I am frequently startled at how immature other people are who are approximately my age, as if in their 30s they had their life together, but for some reason are now regressing to antics that would embarrass a teenager. Story 47. No one wants your opinion. People often interrupt when you speak. It's like you disappear. Story 48. How much better mentally I feel now. The pressures I experienced as a young person from society on so many levels, including body image, motherhood, career, marriage, and cultural expectations, do not bother me anymore. The fact that I can focus on myself without all of the outside noise has been remarkable. Story 49. The food I used to love no longer tastes as delicious. My taste buds have changed, and I eat different things now. I feel a bit sad. Story 50. I assumed I would grow into wisdom and knowledge, but to my surprise, I keep becoming less intelligent. Story 51. How much more self-confidence I have. It is not that I think I am all that. I just stopped caring about other people's judgment. Story 52. I feel physically fine. I have not experienced the whole everything hurts, and my body is falling apart sensation. I expected to, but I have not. I am not a gym enthusiast or a super healthy eater. I just have not felt any significant deterioration as I thought I would. Story 53. All the changes you saw happening to elderly people are happening to you, and if you do not fight intensely, it will happen faster. It is not just happening to you, but also to your community. Story 54. Your essence is always the same whether you are 2 or 42, at least for me. I am the same, just a little tougher. Story 55. What is important has changed. Peace and quiet matter. No drama, no chaos, and no complaining. Finding joy in small moments. A child's smile. A bird making a nest. Squirrels burying nuts. Spider webs, and drifting clouds. Books instead of news. Sandwiches instead of cooking. And discovering new ways to learn about myself and others. Cultivating more compassion, understanding, and patience. Being less inclined to argue. Making time for myself. Asking questions instead of assuming. Being curious about small things. Refusing to judge and refusing to hold people in contempt, yet holding them accountable and letting them go. Becoming the person I always wanted to be, realizing I'm not always right, and accepting that is a good thing. Story 56. Sounds strange, but new generations keep coming after you. At some point, you end up at a bar with people born a decade later, and you wonder, where did these people come from? You keep getting older, but new generations continue to fill those places. Eventually, you may not feel like going to the same bar anymore because it is filled with younger people, even though it used to be your favorite. Story 57. How much I suddenly care about retirement savings overnight. Story 58. The years are starting to go by faster, and the swift reality is that there are no more summer vacations. No more breaks. It is full send all the time. Story 59. 22-year-old female here. Non-serious answer. A lot more people have done cocaine than you think, even people you personally know. Serious answer. Do not count on people you call your friends. They may be your friends, but you are not theirs. Explanation. I am a new mother. All the friends I used to have had children between ages 16 and 21, except for my old college friends. At one point, I was the only friend without children outside of school. Regardless, I attended every child's birthday party, babysat frequently, hung out with them and their kids, and went to family gatherings with all my friends and their children. You get the idea. My main focus here is being part of a trio of 2 married mothers, with me being the childless one. When I got pregnant after I married, I was really excited. When I first found out, I called all my friends individually, and they were so excited for me. This felt like the closing of a book, little did I know, rather than the beginning of a new chapter. Imagine my surprise when my 2 main best friends only hung out with me twice during my first trimester, both within the first full month of my pregnancy. Then they promptly stopped communicating with me. One of them got divorced at age 23 and had a celebration for it. She and the other friend got a hotel room and partied. We had a group chat of 3 people, me and them. I was shocked when one of them texted, "I'm so excited for tonight," and sent pictures of alcohol and a screenshot of the booking. That really hurt. I understood that. They did not want me to feel left out of drinking because of my pregnancy, but I could have had just as much fun sober. These were the same girls who invited me to parties and made me the designated driver when I was in college while they were pregnant. They continued to hang out without me after that, even when they did not drink. I overlooked it, keeping my distance out of a grudge, but they abruptly stopped talking to me completely. No reaching out, no asking how I was doing, nothing. I was diagnosed with preeclampsia as early as you can be diagnosed and was admitted to the hospital for one night. Did they check on me? No. I even reluctantly invited them to the baby shower. They did show up and brought gifts, but after that, it was complete silence again. When I had the baby, I posted about it on Facebook, and they both commented congratulations. But here is the thing. They showed absolutely no interest in meeting her. Nor did they ask me how I was doing, even though postpartum is very difficult. I was going through a lot and subtly cried for help on Facebook through depressing posts. But again, I was left in the dark. I needed my friends. I needed friends in general. The 2 ended up having a big falling out. A decade-long friendship was over. I talk to them sometimes in the comments section, but that is really all. I used to have so many friends. I could not tell you how many. When I got married and had a baby, they left me behind. I do not know if it was the marriage or the pregnancy that caused this, but I just did not fit their standards anymore. I am in a really great marriage as well. Now, I only have two really good friends. I love them dearly, but those friendships are not nearly as close as the trio was. I could have reached out more, but I was so anxious and depressed during pregnancy, and the group chat situation really threw me off. Story 60. How much money I have. Growing up poor has made me humble, but having money when you are older really changes things. Story 61. Understanding what the older people in my life meant when I did not have the life experience to understand. I get it now. I am officially old. Story 62. The good old days were not as good as we think they were. We remember what it was like to be young, and the good old days were when we were young, whenever that was. Story 63. How new phases of life keep coming. What I thought was my adult phase was really just my young adult phase and has already been replaced by more phases. There are still more coming. Story 64. How little I care about what people think. My mother, my fiancé, and to a lesser degree my father. The rest of the world does not matter. Story 65. Good question. I am surprised to find myself becoming more reflective with age, to the point where I am challenging previous assumptions I have always had about the world. It is hard to explain. I also find that as I get older, I am endlessly surprised and sometimes utterly astonished by the many forms of intelligence I notice and observe in other people around me in day-to-day life. Just think about our collective cognitive capabilities as humans. It feels like the older I get, the more I learn to appreciate how differently each person's mind works. It really makes me admire other people. I know my own mind tends to work in certain ways, and I cannot imagine what it would be like to be another person with different inclinations and unique neural pathways. It always makes me wonder when I am talking to someone, and I want to ask but never do, what is it like to be you? Story 66. It's so much better than being a teenager. You grow up hearing that it gets better, especially if as a teenager you were very depressed like I was. I really didn't believe it at the time, but now in my mid-20s it truly does get better. Having your own money, working with something that interests you, and being able to make your own decisions does wonders for your mental health. Also, I think once you're independent and the stress and chaos of becoming independent goes away, you actually have a pretty good peace of mind. Something along the lines of, I left my parents, I have my own place in life, and all the challenges that life throws under my feet I dealt with myself. I am capable. Story 67. Being an adult does not mean anything. I am upset for believing so many adults in general when I was a child. A vast majority of people do not mature emotionally and seem to have no interest in ever attempting to do so. Story 68. Though I appreciate the ideas and sentiments presented by Cephalus in Book 1 of Plato's Republic, where he states that old age has freed him from the anxieties and restraints of pursuing worldly pleasures, I did not anticipate that it would mean losing my libido or sex drive at 30. Life has a sick sense of humor, I guess. Story 69. You don't feel like you are older. I am in my early 30s, but I don't feel any older than I did in my early 20s, apart from the inability to stay up most of the night anymore. Story 70. It's surprising how relaxed you can get about things that seemed important. Turns out they are not. Story 71. 72 million. My old army friends, high school classmates and teachers, and my extended family. Most are gone, lost to me, or too old. Smile. Story 72. There is really no finish line. I have always felt like there would be a point in life where you have made it over the hump, you can breathe easy, and everything is going to be just fine. That is just not the case, but for some reason, I have lived my entire life thinking it was. Story 73. You do not magically grow up and become an adult. Sometimes I feel like my teenage self, and sometimes I cannot understand why the other adults around me cannot problem solve. I am still coming to terms with the fact that I will not wake up one day and have the adult life I imagined as a child. Story 74. I do not feel old. I get genuinely offended and a little sad when people address me formally. I am not Mrs. Theodora Tverspin. That is my mother. Story 75. How my problems did not actually solve themselves and my life did not get better on its own. Actually, it got much worse, and now I do not have the energy even to begin fixing it. Story 76. Learning how to care less about what matters less and care well about what matters more to me without being callous. I feel younger as a result and am more willing to have room for discomfort and uncertainty as I explore myself and the worlds I pass through. Story 77. People behave differently as they age due to experience. The illusion of immortality slowly fades as they encounter disappointment, grief, broken trust, an aging body, and diminished or unmet expectations. Story 78. I am still waiting for the middle-age spread that people always told me would happen. Rocking abs and 16-inch muscles over here. Story 79. The lack of future time affects every aspect of life. Having decades ahead shapes thoughts and actions. Story 80. How the adults I looked up to as a child are just as clueless and lost as I am, if not more so. Story 81. That you do not reach the magic age and know what to do calmly in any situation. The adults of my childhood were improvising as they went along. Story 82. The fact that you stop caring as much is a relief. Story 83. Health decline. Smoking, drinking, casual drug use, poor sleeping habits, and the standard American diet really do catch up to you if you do not correct the course by your mid-40s at the latest. Story 84. How subtle it is. I am 57. It is totally possible now that I hurt myself getting out of bed. Nothing serious, just tweaked my leg sliding it off the bed. Sometimes I will be walking and my toe hurts. Did I strain it? Not sure, but I am not investigating unless it gets worse. This is just normal pain and discomfort. Story 85. How quickly my eyesight has deteriorated now that I am in my late 50s. This year there has been a marked decline. Story 86. Older people often complain about aches and pains because you never cease to be surprised when you experience them. For example, waking up one morning with a dislocated jaw from sleeping on the wrong pillow is unexpected. Story 87. How many people never actually mature? How catty and spiteful older women are. Story 88. Everything hurts a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. Story 89. How many people cheat physically, emotionally, or online? When people around me started getting married, I noticed overlapping relationship timelines and things that didn't quite make sense. I thought, no wonder people divorce. The first time I experienced this was with someone I had known for 3 years. Imagine my surprise when I was told he was marrying someone he had been dating for 2 years. I sat staring at the text message for a whole minute. I had known who he was with for at least a year. I never said anything because several people warned me that if I did, I would be seen as the bad guy. I am sure people understand what I mean, have been there, and have kept secrets to avoid drama. Story 90. I have fewer friends now compared to when I was in my mid-20s. Story 91. How much more respect do you get from other people purely because you now look like a real adult? Story 92. I'm relatively fit at 45 but becoming barrel-chested. I see pictures of myself and I have this unattractive Joe Rogan shape. My organs are too large. Story 93. Just how badly many older people treat the youth. We are supposed to be encouraging and teaching new generations, helping them build a better world, not constantly criticizing them for growing up in a different time. It is really disappointing, and I can see that there is plenty of it here too. Story 94. That people older than me still see me as young. I am 44 for crying out loud. Story 95. How blind I was to so much when my parents were aging, and I did not have nearly as much compassion as I should have had. Now they are both gone and I am experiencing what they went through. Story 96. When you are younger, you have a rush to get homework done, participate in activities, ensure you get good grades, and spend time with friends. It is the noise of a full life that can, to some extent, hide your own mental health issues until you get older. There is less of that noise later except what you create for yourself. During big transitions, such as the loss of parents, a job, or a relationship, unresolved issues can creep back to the surface when you are not quite ready to face them. Story 97. Random pain. Once you reach your mid-30s or 40s, you may randomly wake up with a leg muscle hurting for no reason, or your eye throbs, or your wrist aches all day long. Get used to random body parts taking a sick day. Story 98. How young I feel. I am in my late 40s and I still hike, run, have an active sex life, see new music, and get excited about cool ideas. I traveled and had adventures in my 20s. Now that I know about financial independence, retire early, I kind of wish I had aggressively saved. I would be retired now and have more cumulative years of freedom and adventure. Story 99. 50 happened way faster than I thought it would, but I feel much younger than I expected. Story 100. How cool I am with it. I am well past the age for a midlife crisis and have never had one. Every day is still the same as the one before. I am looking forward to many more. Story 101. The confidence that comes with experience. If I had been as confident in myself when I was younger, who knows what I would have been brave enough to do. Story 102. How much better my life gets the older I become. It is like shedding onion layers, where the onion is made out of false concerns. Story 103. No matter how much sleep I get or how fast time goes by, I feel tired. Story 104. Take care of your body. I am only starting to notice it now at 31, but there is an increasingly widening divide between my peers who exercise and those who do not. It is not just about how you look either. It is costing people experiences. Not being able to go on that hike and see the sunrise because you are unfit. Not being able to play sports with your children because you are out of breath. Not being able to complete the stroll in the park because your knees and joints hurt. Your sex life is suffering because you cannot keep up. Stay fit, everyone. Story 105. I don't feel different. I thought that becoming an adult would make me go through a change, but I am the same child with a bit more knowledge and a lot more responsibility. This kind of makes me happy, but it also makes me feel sad for all of the children trapped in aging bodies. Story 106. That retirement should not have been a goal. Can be isolating and boring. You have traveled the world and now do not want to leave home. Your lawn is perfect, your house is lovely and clean, and you can afford to spend on things you no longer want. Your real friends are gone. All you have now are acquaintances. I could have easily worked another 15 years while taking nice vacations. I hope that those in their 50s and 60s pay attention. If you retire at 67 and live until 87, what exactly are you doing for 20 years except declining in health because you are not active enough? That is all you hear when you go to the doctor. Keep moving. Keeping yourself moving every day becomes artificial and tiresome when, if you had a job, being active would be easier and more enjoyable. Do not get me wrong. I belong to organizations, volunteer, and have many hobbies, but it is forced activity only to stay well. Onlookers think that I am living the American dream. So you wake up, see what is happening on Reddit, and begin to look forward more and more to your rest. Oh, did I mention chronic pain? Story 107. How much I did not really change as a person. Of course, I have changed in some respects, but growing up, there was always this feeling of being a completely different person when you were older. Maybe it was how we viewed adults, or maybe how adults always assumed we would grow out of the things we liked as kids, such as video games. But I can say that me at 31 is pretty similar to me at 18, just less stupid and with more bills to pay. Same hobbies, same likes, same sense of humor. Story 108. Everyone ages differently, but unless you stay active, you will be in constant pain and get sick. When older people used to say health is the most important thing, they were completely right. Story 109. I remember talking to my mother in the hospice a few months before she died. I suppose I made an ignorant comment about somebody not acting their age. She quipped, "You only get old on the outside. I am in my 50s now." She was not wrong. I am okay with the old person in the mirror, though. Story 110. Wisdom does not come with age or experience. It comes with the willingness to grow. Story 111. Women become more attractive to me as they get older. It seems like it would be the opposite, but it is definitely not. Story 112. Jumping high to serve in volleyball. I cannot jump high and the landing is awkward. I had no idea until I started playing again after watching the Olympics. Story 113. How tired I am all the time and how much more sleep I need now. Story 114. It is strange to be the age I remember my parents being. Back then, I thought my parents in their 40s looked old. Now, I see pictures and think about how young they looked. It makes me wonder if my children see me as old. Story 115. How emotionally comfortable I am with my life. All the things that gave me anxiety do not really bother me anymore. Story 116. You care much less about what other people think about you. Story 117. Giving way less concern, and not in a bad way, but in a way where you just know what is most important. As I was typing that, I realized it might not be the same for everyone. I was a sensitive teenager and young adult, and I wanted everyone to like me. I am grateful I have moved on from that. I am sure others have grown in the opposite way and are also grateful. What I find surprising is the balance. You seem to grow into yourself, and the places where you were sharp tend to smooth out. Story 118. I seem invisible to most people younger than me. I guess I did this to seniors when I was younger, but I did not realize how painful it can be. I think it is karma, but that does not mean it does not suck. Story 119. How finding one's voice is pleasing. I used to worry so much about what people thought because I often put my foot in my mouth. I would be on autopilot just to make it through the day. Now, out of frustration and a desire for change, I have to fight to make my voice known. I am working on addressing people in a stern manner because I do have a temper problem. I am just burned out from people pleasing. Story 120. The sadness of losing physical strength and endurance. I have never remarried and have been alone for a long time. Story 121. You live life forward, but understand it backward. That Soren Kierkegaard quote always resonates with me. Story 122. Mentally, I do not feel older at all. In my mind, everything seems exactly the same as it did 10, 20, or 30 years ago. I always imagined that the way I think would be substantially different by the time I reached my age. No, pretty much exactly the same as it always has been. Story 123. I am okay with it. I am happier in my own skin than I have ever been, and it is amazing. Story 124. You become invisible. Older adults are not seen as fun companions. You will have to create your own schedule of activities. Unless you have close family or longtime friends, you are on your own. Story 125. The loneliness is almost as if you had one chance in your younger years to have a significant other and a family, and if that did not work, then it is over. The same applies to making close friends. Story 126. My mind says, you can do that, but my body refuses to cooperate. Story 127. Not feeling older for one, but the tricks time plays. How it speeds up when busy, slows when waiting, speeds again when having fun. When dreaming, never long enough. Story 128. I'm an old guy, moving into my 70s. I've worked out most of my life, staying very active, still working and traveling. What shocks me is myself when I look in the mirror. I'm old. I look old. It happened after 60. Before that, I got comments on how young I looked for my age. I don't get those now. Number 2, my drive, not the car kind. What is that all about? I have to concentrate now. My wife laughs and says, welcome to a woman's world. I didn't need my dad to tell me about the birds and the bees. I needed him to tell me this would happen. If he had, I might have spent more time enjoying my younger years. Might just be me. I don't know. In my age group, it's not something you bring up with your friends. Blue pills, yellow pills. Next up, testosterone. A friend says it's magic. Sure, I might pass away a few years earlier, but who cares? On a positive note, I have great kids and wonderful grandchildren who are with me frequently. I thought getting old might be lonely. For me, it has not been. It has been nothing but family love and friendship. Story 129. My mind still thinks I am 28, but my body tells me I am 68. I am really 57. Aging is not for wimps. Youth is wasted on the young. Story 130. In old age, many people are surprised by how quickly time passes. Sometimes it feels like recent events happened just yesterday, even though years or decades have gone by. It is also surprising how priorities change. Things that once seemed important lose their significance, while simple joys like health, family, or peace of mind take center stage. Often, there is a realization that the inner self remains young despite the physical changes. That was my grandmother's answer. Story 131. How much I no longer care about things that I would have stressed about when I was younger. Story 132. I cannot sit on the floor for extended periods of time anymore. Story 133. How happy I am. Yes, my body is deteriorating, but somehow I am happier than ever. Story 134. How often I need to urinate and how annoying it is to have that slight feeling of need almost every waking hour. I feel it right now. Story 135. I cannot believe I am admitting this, but I have a low tolerance for foreign accents in media. I do not know why. Story 136. Approaching 50 years old, and in my mind, I am still a teenager. I have never felt like I truly knew what I was doing. Story 137. The friends we thought we would have forever grow smaller. Hangouts become reunions. That body you once thought was indestructible aches if you sleep at the wrong angle. Getting older is difficult. Story 138. How fast you can lose your stamina. I am 25 and cannot run upstairs for 3 floors without taking a break. Just 2 years ago, I was able to run upstairs and do physical activities for hours without losing my breath. Story 139. The aches and pains. My flatulence is louder and more odorous. I am not concerned with designer clothes. My testicles hang lower, and I need to urinate more frequently. I spill food on the front of my shirt. Story 140. 99% of adults are far less intelligent than children. I do not know if we have all become less intelligent or if the standard for society has fallen into the darkest, deepest pits of despair. Probably both. Story 141. People I love keep passing away. It is not surprising, just hurtful, and an unfortunate side effect of age. Story 142. The aches and pains. What did I do to my back now? Story 143. Appearance changes, hair turns white, energy decreases, and time cannot be reversed. Thoughts may remain the same but with a different perspective. Enjoy your life while you are still young because once it is gone, it is gone. Story 144. How much my back starts to hurt just from sleeping incorrectly. Story 145. Eyesight definitely worsens quickly, especially with perceiving colors. The world just seems grayer. Story 146. The more I try not to be like my parents, the more it just happens. Comes out and I understand them a lot now. Story 147. Watching my body deteriorate in real time. I am currently watching the gap between my femur and hip socket shrink. The doctor estimates I have 6 months before it is bone on bone and time for a hip replacement. I had cervical disc replacement surgery last year, and I am going in for a magnetic resonance imaging scan next week for my entire spine. That is just one of many ailments caused by age. Story 148. How much it generally sucks. I always thought being an adult would be better, but it comes with so much pain, bills, responsibility, and work. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.